Last week, we looked at a good, low-budget superhero film. This time, let's look at a big-budget bad one. Max Steel was released in 2016, based on the mildly successful toy line and accompanying cartoon series. Now, if I've learned anything about movies based on toys, it's that they're always good. The movie kicks off with Max McGrath. Great, another superpowered McGrath, and his single mother moving into their new house. Now, this is already played out. How many movies have to start with that single mother and her kid move into a new house gimmick? Fucking Mac and Me did this shit in '88 and it sucked back then and it sucks now. They talk about Max's dead dad for a bit, then Max goes upstairs to look at a picture of his dead dad. His mom comes up after him and he asks her about his dead dad. I get it, movie. He has a dead dad. Let's move it along. Then, while watching footage of his dead dad, we're never getting past this, are we? He notices some weird distortion of energy seemingly caused by his hand. Intro credits, and he's off to school. Ooh, very close.
Ow! Oh my god, don't be dead. Are you okay?
What do you mean, don't be dead? He just fell off his bike. He's fine. You clearly didn't hit him, so who cares if he's dead? You know what? I wish he was dead, so I wouldn't have to watch the rest of this shitty fucking movie. Max goes to class where his teacher talks to him about his dead dad, son of a bitch. Then we get a scene of him helping a kid pick up his books in the hallway. I guess to establish he's a nice guy. But this is the only time we see Max help anyone other than himself. Which I shouldn't even have to say, but for a superhero movie, is not good. It reminds me of that scene from The Amazing Spider-Man, where Andrew Garfield helps that one kid getting bullied, but then proceeds to be a complete asshole throughout the rest of the film, and you're just supposed to understand from that one scene that he's a good guy. So what if he rips some girl's clothes off in the subway? He's a good guy. You remember that scene with the bully? He helped the kid that was getting bullied. So he's a good guy. A little rapey, but he's a good guy. Nice ADR, by the way.
Hey, thanks.
After school, Max meets up with the girl that nearly ran him over, and they go over to her place, naturally, where she fixes up his bike. He rides home where his mom introduces him to one of his dad's old friends, Miles, who stays for dinner, and they talk about, you guessed it, Max's dead dad. Miles hints that he may know more than he's letting on and gives Max his card. Gee, wonder if this dude's evil. This scene is interspliced with another of an unseen dangerous creature escaping from a lab. It's shot bad and it's boring. Cue obligatory exposition via search engine scene. And I'll give you 2 guesses what he's searching. Ding, 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 did you say his dead dad? Because if you did, you've won 45 copies of Max Steel. What's that? You don't want them? That's fine. We'll burn them. Just as he's about to discover something interesting, his powers go haywire and shut off the computer. Now would be a good time to discuss Max's powers. Through the next couple of scenes, Max experiments and comes to grips with his newly developing powers. Why he has powers? I don't know. What his powers are? I kind of know? The movie does a very poor job of explaining what Max can actually do. But from what I gathered, I guess his body generates tachyon energy. What that is, I don't know. It's not explained. But whenever Max feels a strong emotion, his body generates this tachyon energy, which he can then use to manipulate electronics, I think? Though sometimes he can just use the force, kind of? Or shoot laser beams? Now, admittedly, I've never watched the cartoon that this movie is based on, but I'd imagine there are supposed to be some kind of rules as to what his powers can do. But the movie does not explain those rules at all. So a lot of the time his powers come off as magical plot convenience bullshit, which does not make for a compelling superhero. Nobody likes a Mary Sue, except fans of Rian Johnson. The only rule that's made clear is if Max produces too much energy at a time, he will explode. And he almost does. But fortunately for him, and us, we're introduced to the best, scratch that, the only good character in this entire film. Steel, not that one.
It's hammer time.
Steel is an alien parasite that can absorb tachyon energy from its host, thus feeding itself while simultaneously preventing the host, in this case Max, from exploding. It also provides Max with amplified powers and some pretty sick biotech armor. Think of Steel as a PG Venom. Steel tells Max that he was sent by his father to protect him. He takes this job very seriously and is very blunt about how he goes about it, though everything he does has this sort of goofball tone to it.
Okay, well, how about the energy, the tachyon stuff? Let's start with that.
Sounds good, let's do it.
Where did it come from?
Pass.
He's an interesting character, and I like him. Now, I'm sure you're wondering right about now, well, if Steel is so great, what is Max like? What's his personality like? What does he stand for? What are his goals? And the answer to all of those is simple. No. He doesn't have any of those. At all. He's pretty much just a blank slate with legs. And every scene he's in without Steel is boring as shit. Which is a problem, because that's like half the movie right there. So on his way to school, Max gets attacked by some armed goons. He and Steel escape, and we get some fun scenes of Steel at school.
The girl creature appears to cause increases in heart rate and respiration. Perhaps you should avoid contact with her.
Perhaps you should shut up.
See? She has made you angry.
This is probably the best part of the movie. After school, the two practice their powers together some more and try to learn how to work together. Max and Steel then head over to Miles's to find out a bit more about Max's dad, because we haven't dedicated enough of the runtime to that already. The two get ambushed by the armed goons and split up. Max runs into Truck Girl and they drive over to Miles, who tells Max his father died in an explosion that was his own fault. Max is obviously upset by this, and without Steel, his emotions cause him to produce a large amount of tachyon energy, and he has to leave the building. Miles seems very interested by this. Gee! Wonder if he's a bad guy! Next is a scene straight out of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. It starts storming, Max runs away from the storm, only to be attacked by a Dementor. Sorry, I mean, an Ultralink. Yeah, sure. Steel comes out of nowhere, and together they defeat it. Then, because Max and Steel are linked or some shit, they both get a flashback of Steel causing the explosion that killed Max's dad. So Max runs off again and doesn't want to talk to Steel. He tries to go home but finds his house surrounded by the armed goons. So naturally he thinks they kidnapped his mom. He runs over to Truck Girl's house and borrows her truck and phone. He calls Miles and tells him what's happening. Miles suggests that they may be keeping his mom in his dad's old lab and he should get there as fast as he can. Gee, wonder if it's a trap! We then get a scene inside the house where we learn that the armed goons actually work for Max's mom now, and they're just trying to make sure he's safe. Doing a great job, guys! So then Max shows up at his dad's old lab where he's ambushed by, who would have guessed it? Miles! Turns out the flashback was wrong, and it was actually Miles who betrayed Max's father, who by the way was an alien. So, yeah, and tried to drain him of his tachyon energy, which Max's dad didn't like, so he blew himself up. Even though Steel could have easily gotten them both out of that situation, like he does with Max when Miles tries the same thing on him. Max and Steel suit up and fight Miles head on. This fight scene was alright. It's got some major Power Rangers vibes to it, which doesn't mesh well with the tone of the story, but I hate the story, so I'm fine with this. The two go at it for a while before Max decides to give Miles what he wants and lets him absorb the tachyon energy. He then tells Steel to go turbo. It sounds fucking stupid, but it causes Miles to explode from the energy intake. Max's mom and the goons find them and bring them home, and the movie ends with a little teaser that Max can fly now.
They fly now!
So, Max Steel. What went wrong? Well, aside from just about everything, I think this is just your classic case of Hollywood seeing a franchise that's on the rise in popularity and trying to jump in and milk it while it's hot, while also not understanding what made it so popular in the first place. Only thing is, this time they put all their chips on a franchise that clearly was nowhere near as popular as they thought it was. It's not one of the worst films I've ever seen, but after this review, I'll sleep soundly never having to watch it again. I'd lump this movie in with the likes of Maze Runner, Divergent, Twilight, and The Hunger Games. Just sloppy teen garbage with no personality. All I can say is thank God this film didn't take off, because I cannot imagine having to review another one of these. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm trying to upload more frequently, especially because I'm moving into my new setup, so I will be able to record on a regular basis. And these superhero movie reviews, well, I'm pretty passionate about them. Superhero movies are why I started collecting movies in the first place. I can also get them out on a fairly decent schedule, weekly to bi-weekly. So be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out, and I will see you guys next time.